Hello and welcome back. I'm Gabrielle, and today I want to talk to you about what it means to feel into another person. And we're going to cover the whole spectrum of it, not just the resonance, but also what happens when you're in dissonance. And first, we're going to start with resonance. And I've talked about using your discernment and actually feeling into a being, into another. And in that, you will know if something is not right. It feels uncomfortable. It feels, it makes you feel anxious in your own body, or it just doesn't, like the conversation doesn't flow. There's many ways to feel into a group, but in general, we're all here trying to find that soul group that helps us to ground into this vessel and into this body so that we can bloom into this experience. And when we are only around people that make us feel that unease or dis-ease in ourselves, it makes the soul not want to embody. So there's been this big push for people to find their soul tribe or find that group of resonance. And you will notice it by, if you're on this path, this intense feeling of loneliness. And the reason that comes is because your soul is telling you it wants like vibration around it. It wants to be able to express itself freely without feeling judged or criticized or looked at as crazy. Because when you are able to find that group of beings that allows you to shine, the shine just grows and grows and grows, because then you're not limited, or you're not feeling like you're in a box and you can only really show certain aspects of yourself. So there've been conversations in the energy tribe group that have been around this, and how, they're very thankful to have found each other, because the people in their lives would think they were witches or that they were crazy or that whatever. And same with my life, I try, and you'll understand why, but I try to push my light out as far as I can. With sometimes it's just a dropping of an idea. Sometimes it's a full conversation. Sometimes it's just the way I speak, the way I present who I am now. But in general, I don't have in-depth conversations on my level with many people, because in my immediate life, even if people accept who I've become and accept that the things I say, like Richard, he'll always say, well, that's way above my head, but I can understand, I can kind of get where you're coming from. But in general, we're not able to have that back and forth. So it's at this time that finding your soul group is really what your soul is needing. It's what it's longing for. So it will come into your body like an intense loneliness, or some people don't understand me. I feel like I'm in this planet alone and I don't know why I'm here, and I just feel like I don't belong here. Whenever you have that intense feeling, it is your soul speaking to you. It is saying, open up so that your frequency match can mirror back to you who you are. And sometimes it takes time. Like, it could be like surfing through YouTube channels or podcasts or different, modalities to find that resonance of like your passions, then spark this openness that then allow you to open up your heart to a group. But in general, there is nothing that is of more support in this time than finding that space. So that is when you are feeling into others on a high vibrational level. Now, within that soul group, you're going to find that in general, you carry a close to same resonance, but within the group members themselves, you'll notice that you become attracted and have more common interest with certain people versus other people. And what I'm finding with that is that that also is just a frequency connection. Now, we are always hopefully fluctuating up and down, but mostly up in our frequency. And you'll find that like within the groups that you find and that you're involved with, you'll have moments where you're super connected to some, and then it like moves like with the season, and then you've noticed that, okay, that person's off doing this thing, which really isn't my calling, so I'm gonna, focus on something else. And then there'll be another group another person in the group that is, into that subject, let's say. And then you find deeper common interests, and all of it is just energy moving. They're all just threads that are weaving the tapestry of the soul group. But feeling into that place of allowing yourself to know when something feels good and when it doesn't, even in my own life, it's been a challenge. Like I have struggled with knowing, like, let's say someone doesn't feel in resonance with me, but then being like, but I love her, but I care for her, but I want to open myself to her. And then also realizing that at some points there are needs for boundaries and protecting your own frequency so that you can continue on your trajectory and not be brought like this it feels like heaviness. It can feel like chaos, and it will come in the form of like in our plane, it will come in the form of intense conversations that are depleting, or where there's like, but you said this and this hurt my feelings, or like this kind of wanting to pull you into a dynamic that I would call the triangle of disempowerment, right? Like if you're feeling that and it feels like it's heavy, it's time for discernment and time to recheck in with yourself. And at the end of the day, the biggest indicator of where you are frequency-wise with other people is your body. What do you feel when you're around certain people? So that's on the high vibe. Like that's like what we're here trying to feel into others to find our soul group. Now, on the flip side, there are occasions and there are moments and there are teachings and work that we're here to do. So we will also come into contact with people that are not of our higher or elevated frequency, but that happens for a reason too. And recently this happened to me, and it took me almost a month to finally understand it. And so that's really what I want to share with you is that, and also I've noticed it's actually happening to many of us. So for me, at my wedding, we had family. We invited our immediate family and then just a couple like best friends. And in that, it was all people that was full of love and acceptance. And, it wasn't like I was out there that day and I was, it was me being fairly normal. But when I hugged one of the guests, I felt immediately like a door slam, and it felt like a concrete wall. Like, and by that, I mean, when you go in, especially touching and feeling into someone, you can feel, at least in this case, I felt right away, the energy was not being allowed, my energy was not being allowed to infiltrate into that person's system, and they were not going to give me anything of theirs. Like, it just felt cold and closed off. So what happened is then I pulled back, obviously from the hug, I pulled back, and I knew at that moment that it wasn't going to happen. Now, I had downloads prior to the wedding that it was going to be extremely hard for this person to be in this frequency, and that I needed to be as supportive as possible without having an expectation, because it was already going to be really hard for them to be here. Okay, so I knew all of that going into it. I even told Richard and my mom, and I let people know, like, let's really hold space for the fact that they're making the effort, even if they aren't going to be able to open up and receive what I am and what Richard and I are at the end of the day, because it was our wedding, they still are making the effort. So that night, as I went to sleep, I started getting sick. And I had COVID, I think like 3 weeks prior, which for me wasn't a big deal. It was my second time getting it, and I wasn't really that sick. But this cold that came on after the wedding was probably the most intense that I've had. So I'm like, what is going on? And I remembered, like, no one was sick at the wedding. No one else got sick from the wedding. So what's going on? And I kept trying to feel into it. But while I was actually sick, I couldn't. I mean, I would say this. When I want information, it's not like I get it on split second. Sometimes there's integration that still is going on before I can receive the higher learning from it. But eventually it came through that what happened is, in that hug, in that embrace, in that where I felt closed energy, it's like it sparked in me the codes that I need to heal in my own system. So in the case of this person, we have a contract. We have many connections and ties to each other in this lifetime. And by being in their presence, it ignited and reminded my system, there's still healing here. There's still stuff that is stuck, that is needing to be removed from your system, and it's going to take a lot. So that's, for me, it was almost 3 weeks of being like pretty sick. And what happened, and this is more intuitively and also kind of part of the message, was in this case, because that person is not open to working on anything or receiving me in any way, it was a releasing of that contract. And that's why it was so intense in my body, because it's like, if you do a cord cutting, and I don't do them often because most of the people that have cords into our bodies are there for a reason. You know, we're here to grow from each other and mirror to each other our experiences. And when you're ready to heal something, that person or those people that are your corded people are going to be the ones that are going to show it to you. So typically, I don't remove cords. I haven't removed any cords from myself. I do put a lot of protection around myself, but cords I let be, because I know that until they're ready to be released, they aren't meant to be. So in this case, it was needed, and it was time for this connection to be released. And it felt like a release of a contract between us, which is a lot. You know, it's something that I hold with a lot of respect and a lot of deep empathy for myself and them, and also knowing that I can hold them in my heart with love without needing to have their energy flowing through me anymore. So the moment, as I was talking about this, because this came as for me, downloads that come, I usually have to talk it out and they usually come when I'm talking to someone. So I was talking it out, I think it was with my mom, and I was saying, like, as I was telling her what happened and why I got sick, you know, it's coming through, and I'm also learning at the same time. I start coughing and coughing and coughing, and I said, see, even talking about it is there's still stuff that needs to be released. And then I said, this time, the reason that it's so intense for me is because this is the end of it. This is literally the releasing of that contract, that energy flow between me and that person. And once it's complete, I can let it go, and I can receive and just give love, like universal love, to that person without most of the people we have energetic ties to. It's a give and take. Like, if they aren't reciprocating, then your feelings get hurt, and you feel like, but I reached out last, or I did this, and they said this, when you release a contract and release those threads, it doesn't matter anymore because it's love. There is no longing for something to be more than it is, because it just is what it is. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, I feel that, I know that. So I set a intention to release all connections to that person and send them in love and grace. And I'm not even kidding you. That's it. The sickness went away, and the cough that was so intense was gone. And I feel a lot lighter. I feel like when our bodies need to purge, we can allow them to purge. Now, I think what we're being called to do, though, is to purge consciously. Like in the past, we would all get sick and just get sick and be like, I don't know where I was sick. I mean, who knows? But now I feel fine. I'm over it. I don't think so anymore. I think when any dis-ease comes up in our bodies, we're trying to pinpoint where that dis-ease is so that consciously you can also move through it in your waking experience and understand what's happening. So then after that happened, I'm not kidding you, yesterday 2 people from the energy tribe talked to me about almost exact same situations where they're extremely sick and they want to know why. And I was like, oh, that's funny that you're asking, because I was planning to do a podcast on it this week. But I think this thread of understanding why this purge needs to happen is like a gift from yourself, because look, when we know better, we do better, right? Like when you evolve around that circle and you're spiraling up in your vibration, let's say my past interactions with the person in my life, maybe it depleted me, but I just, I felt out of obligation. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do. No, this time around, I clearly had a point of reference and I had action that I could take. And doing it with an open heart instead of I'm angry about this or I'm disappointed in this. All of that is the ego wanting it to be what it isn't. And so what I think we're being asked to see is that, look, when you can release whatever the conflict in your life is with grace, like even me breathing like that, it's like, I don't have that cough, that congestion that's trying to release it anymore. It just feels clean. And I know that this part of the experience is needed now. I have also been shown that people coming around me is becoming, it's interesting. It's harder for more people. Like I have a family friend that was actually supposed to come this weekend for the weekend. And I told my mom, yeah, she scheduled a date and we planned this date, but I don't think she's ready. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, we had talked on the phone for 2 hours while we were scheduling or planning to spend time together. And just in what we talked about, I knew it wasn't going to happen. And sure enough, after I'd said that to my mom, I think it was literally the next day, her uncle passed. And the funeral is this weekend. So it wasn't that she consciously didn't want to come, but I knew she wasn't ready to be around me. And again, I can hold that with grace. I could feel that. I also have another friend that right when I moved here, came for a visit. And, we had a good time. I didn't feel uncomfortable while she was here. But the moment she left, I felt like so ungrounded and like almost like spinning out of my body, and just I never get anxious, but I almost felt like a panic attack was coming. And I knew then that I had been holding both of our energies for us to be in this space together. And so now what I'm finding is that when you are around many people that are of all different sorts of vibrations, what typically happens is the one that is at the higher level, and again, no judgment, but a higher vibrating moment, it usually is the one that has to lower itself to the frequency of the collective or whoever is around you. Now, me personally, it takes a lot out of me. And I also started to like really think about this. And I don't know if I've talked about this before, but prior to moving to this new house, I think it had been like a year ago, maybe a little longer, that Richard was like, oh, pot's legal. Let's go see what's at the pot store. And that's when I was introduced to the gummies. And at our old house, I had maybe done them like two times. And then I did it once on vacation in Sedona. And then I was like, oh my God, it was in Sedona. The energy was way too intense for me. And it felt like unclean. Like I remember after that weekend, I felt like just dirty. And I ended up doing, I think it was a 10-day juice cleanse. I just wanted to cleanse everything out of my body. So then I didn't do any gummies until we moved to this house. And then I noticed that in this environment, they're being called like over and over. And I'm like, why? It's like, I've told you guys, it's in a basin and it's surrounded by nature. And whenever I've done a gummy here, I feel so open and expanded and also protected. So I have never felt like, no matter who's here, I've never felt like I'm being accosted or assaulted. And I don't feel dirty. Like I don't feel like I'm absorbing denser energies. So I asked, what's going on with this? And what I was shown is that having the gummies available here, typically people that want to partake in that, which it seems that most people will or do, it opens their consciousness up to receive a higher vibrational pulse. And for me, it helps me to expand and lower to meet them at where they are, and then start planting seeds of activation without really me being conscious. Now I'm conscious, but I didn't realize this before, but without me being with an intention to do so, because I'm not trying to change anyone. I'm just being exactly who I'm here to be. But what happens is in that free space where it feels more open and expanded, those codes are able to be received in a much more organic way. And and especially over the week of our wedding, like we had so many people here, and it was interesting to see like who wanted to try it, who didn't want to try it. And then during one of those, we had like a party around a fire, is that, yeah, I was literally holding space for these people to let that, it's almost like this tension recede, so that the ego and the needing concrete evidence or whatever I'm talking about, there's a wall. Like in the case of the person that came to the actual wedding, there was absolutely no way that there was even like a sliver of light moving through that wall. So I think it's interesting that in my case now, the people that are coming here and able to hold that frequency, it's a give and take, and it's definitely me feeling into them and them also feeling into me. So why I wanted to talk about this is that this whole process can be such a beautiful thing, but also you have to listen to your body when it doesn't feel beautiful, and when it is sick, and when it doesn't feel like right. Like I've had moments too where I don't feel good around someone, and I had to say it, like something doesn't feel right here. And also I am, always thankful and grateful for the protection, and for knowing that whoever ends up coming is ready to test out, I would say test the waters of my energy. And now how does this relate to you guys? We are all the same. If you're listening to me up to this point in this conversation, it's the same for you as well. We all live in different experiences, but that vibration is the same. So if people are able to hold space and be around you, they are your vibration. They're able to receive you. So what does that mean? You can start being and letting down your guard, being the real you, speaking about your interests, opening up your heart. Now, I'm not saying you have to start speaking, the way that I speak, but you can start planting seeds with people. And if someone calls you a witch, okay, I see you. Like Richard, a lot of the things he's like, he loves it when I take the gummy because he likes listening to me go on. But at the same time, I can see him being like, it's a lot for him. But look, we live together and, he's able to absorb me in some way. I don't need to have that validation back from him that he totally understands me. There are things that I'll be like, oh, I'm just working on this. And if he asks me to explain more, then I will. But in general, like most of the things that I'm working on, even to me, they're over my head. So I'm like, usually just trying to dig deep and research and expand myself to understand these kind of, I would say, quantum ideas. And if I don't understand it, I can't explain it. So it's just knowing that there's this give and take. It feels like it's a dance. But if you're able or they're able to be in your energy and you're able to be in their energy, there is the threads that are starting to weave that tapestry of understanding. Now, some people won't understand this consciously. And can we have complete grace and love for that as well? I thought about that the other day with Richard, is that I'm kind of, in a way, very happy that he doesn't go as deep as me consciously, because he's the person that keeps this place grounded and is able to function in the real world and, provide for me so that I can go deeper. And if he were as out there as me, who would hold us down? Who would ground us? So if you have people in your life that in their words say they don't understand you, or they make these comments that you're crazy or whatever, find the reason that they are unconscious, and start to have gratitude for those spaces as well. I hope that you guys are well. And I just wanted to say also, if you don't have, or you haven't met your soul group yet, this is a very brave thing to do. And I know there are many of you that have a desire to join the Energy Tribe group. And what I would say is that you're in training to the vibration. If you haven't joined us yet, it's because you're listening to me and you're dipping your toes in the water. But what I wanted you to know about the group is that it isn't just my vibration. It's a lot of vibrations that are all at different points in the path. And when it comes together, it feels like it's a full ocean of energy. So our next Energy Tribe Circle isn't going to be until December 16th. Because the one for November, I'm going to be in ceremony. So we're skipping November. So it will be December 16th. And if you are interested to get the emails and the link to join us, you can go to my website, which is GabrielleGenter.com. And it's under Tribe, the Tribe tab, and you just sign up there. And then when I send out the email the day before, you'll get the link and what we're going to, the topics will be. But I just want you to know you're not alone, and learning to trust your body is everything right now.